This week in Grace's Girls Club, I have a special guest who is a fellow meteorologist. I want you to meet Sydney. Sydney, introduce yourself. Tell us where you work and your title.
Hey, so my name is Sydney, and I work for a company called IBSS, which is actually based in Maryland, but I live here in Alabama. And I'm a hydrometeorologist, so that's basically everything precipitation related within meteorology specifically. So we work a lot with precipitation data.
Awesome. And walk me through, the word hydrometeorologist is not widely known outside of our meteorology community. So walk me through your day-to-day. Tell me what your job looks like, the ins and the outs.
So for me specifically, my job is a lot of historical precipitation data. So it's kind of like a little bit between a mystery, history, and weather. So we do a lot of things related to past precipitation events, and we're working to create a repository of a whole bunch of different precipitation frequency data across the United States. So it's a lot of data and numbers, but it's really neat to see how eventually it'll work to make an end product that'll help people across the United States.
Absolutely. And Sydney, what is one time that someone might reach out to you, someone might need a hydrometeorologist? Give us an example.
So a lot of hydrometeorologists do things similar to what I do. So it's a lot of data and numbers, but um, I think that maybe people would reach out for someone in a position like this when they're wanting to try and better understand precipitation, especially not just, I know like meteorologists in general, we talk about weather and all these other things too, but it's mainly precipitation based. So specifically precipitation, I would think probably.
Very cool. So of the letters in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, which letter or sequence of letters would you say most applies to hydrometeorology?
I would say specifically the S for science. Although we do have technology, engineering, and math within meteorology, so I think I would have like a capital S with maybe a lowercase t in it.
I think that's pretty good. All right, so let's say I was a young girl or a young student watching this episode, and I think being a hydrometeorologist sounds pretty cool. I want to do that too. Walk me through the type of schooling you went through, the degree you have, and how this next generation could follow that path to get to the career you have today.
Okay, so I went to a community college for the first 2 years of my college education, and then I transferred to UAH. And so then I went 2.5 years at UAH to complete my bachelor's degree, and then I went 2.5 years to complete my master's degree. So I have a master's degree, but you don't necessarily have to have a master's degree. Most meteorology jobs just require a bachelor's degree. And then if you want to do more specialized things like research or something like that, you'll probably want a graduate degree as well. And there are several schools across the United States that have that. We have one here at UAH, but they have a really good atmospheric science meteorology program. And a lot of people from there do great things. So it's a really cool place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sydney, who are some of the other companies that you work with on a daily basis?
So for our project specifically, we have a couple other contractors that we work with on our project. So one of them is RTI International. They're based in North Carolina. And then there are a couple others there too. There are a lot of companies that do similar work to what we do. And a lot of the companies, they are also government contractors. So it's a lot of contract work, but it's good work and it's very interesting work. And we get to work with people who do great things every day, and I really appreciate that.
Oh, that's so true. And that's always the heart behind it, right? Saving lives, saving property, and helping things to be, excuse me, a little bit better in the future. Do you work often with the National Weather Service? I mean, here in Huntsville, we have UAH with a meteorology program. We have your line of work, my line of work, coding meteorologists on the Arsenal, and the National Weather Service, all right here in the Rocket City. Do you frequently work with them?
So the contract that I'm on is actually with the Weather Service. So it's within the Weather Service, the Office of Water Prediction. So everything that we do is weather service based, and everything that we, all of the products that we use, all of the data that we gather has went through the weather service in some way, because all of the past precipitation events typically go through a local office to eventually make it to wherever they end up. So,
Right. Very cool. So walk me through why you chose this field.
um, I think that when I was younger, I had parents, well, not when I was younger, but my whole life, I've had parents that are very analytically minded. So we were always exposed to this life of investigation where we just like to learn. And so all of the things that we've done were always very research, look at things, check things out. And so over time, I just developed this love of learning and this love of growth and research and investigation. And so whenever it came time for me to choose a job, I think not only having a love of learning and research and just gaining knowledge, that it was also that people in this area are really impacted by weather a lot, and weather is involved in most everything that we do. So based on the fact that I like to learn and grow and investigate things, and the weather is ever changing, so you're never going to have one day that's the same as the next. So all of that together, I think, just led me to a career in some science-based field, and then weather specifically because it impacts us so much that I want to really make a difference with what career I choose. And so I wanted to choose a career like this.
Oh, I love that. I love the heart behind that it started with your family and then it turned into your love of weather and making a difference in the end. That's awesome. So what are some of the challenges that are associated with your job every day?
So since we do use past weather data, a lot of the issues that we have are and what people meant with the data that they and then part of it is also just I think having the ability to, one of the biggest challenges for me is having the ability to compare what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis and how it will eventually impact people, because sometimes we lose sight of the end product or the end goal of what we do every day. And so you can get into looking at all this different data and numbers and things, but then every now and then I just have to step back and think, okay, at the end of the day, these numbers and these data are going to go into a product which will be used by people all across this country. And that's really neat. So I think if you ever get like down in a little slump, or like where you don't want to keep going or keep moving, that if you just step back for a minute and you look at the whole process of where you're going, then it helps you to stay focused.
Oh, I could not agree more. I love that. If you step back, look at where you're going, it helps you stay focused in the now. That is wise. Those are wise words. They absolutely are. So speaking of, I have one last question for you, Sydney, and then I'm going to let you get back to it. But if you had a message to young women, young girls, young students in general that were interested in joining the STEM workforce one day, what would your message to them be?
I think it would be that you can do it. I know that for me, I've had very supportive family, but not everyone has that. And if you ever have someone who tells you you can't, just prove wrong.
Absolutely. Nothing else to be said. If you ever have someone tells you can't,
there are a lot
wrong.
of times in life that people feel like because a lot of times we have people that'll tell us maybe we can't do this or that. You know, that class is too hard, you can't take it. Or maybe there's something like you are presented with a problem in your life and you think you can't handle it. Yes, you can. You always can. So there are a lot of stumbling blocks that you have to come over going through school to get into a field like this, but you can do it. I believe in you.
You're just awesome, Sydney. I am so glad you came on today. Thank you so much for your time and your expertise and wisdom.
Yeah, thank you so much for talking with me. I really appreciate it.